Hey, what's up, y'all? It is Bill of the Universe, and I'm gonna do the chart of Julie Andrews. So, I want to say before I even start, this is her birth chart. Obviously, it's Vedic astrology. Y'all already know that. But this is her birth chart, and it's not her Navamsa chart. So, in Vedic astrology, we have what's called a Navamsa chart, and that's basically talking about the second half of her life. And Julie Andrews is 89 years old. So, I'm not really talking about Navamsa chart covers the second half of your life, right? So she's had the last 50 years to develop the second half of her life. So I'm not talking about that. I always make that disclaimer whenever I do an old person's chart because, an old person, they can have the worst birth chart and then have the best Navamsa chart. So if I say anything, that doesn't sound correct to the way she lives now, it's because I'm doing her birth chart, which is like the first 30, 40 years of her life, not exactly her life after 35, 40. Okay. So, we're going to do the birth chart of Julie Andrews. Man, this is a very interesting chart. First of all, I have to say, this is actually if this chart were a guy, this would be, and I'm so please don't be mad at me for being crass. This would be a really handsome man with a big penis. um, a study was done on the most handsome men in the world, and so many of them, including like every man who's ever been on People magazine's most handsome man or beautiful man, something like that. A lot of them are Uttara Falguni ascendant, and that's from the case study done by the astrologer Claire Nocti. She did a beauty survey, and for women it was Cancer ascendant, it was Pushya ascendant, but for men it's Virgo ascendant, it's Uttara Falguni ascendant, and that's what her ascendant is Uttara Falguni. Not only that, but she has Jupiter conjunct her moon, which again, Jupiter is a male planet. Not only that, but it's in the star of Vishaka. And Vishaka itself is a male energy. So Vishaka is a star within Libra. So she's a Libra moon with a Libra Jupiter conjunct her moon. Okay. So that in itself isn't really masculine, right? Because Libra is actually very fair, and Libra will do what's best for the relationship. Libra will do what's best to keep harmony. So that's not really a typical male thing. Typically, a male thing is to just do what you think is best, and that's it. Everyone else is just going to have to deal with it. So that's not really the male thing that I see, is that Libra moon with the Libra Jupiter, but it is Vishaka. Vishaka itself, the nakshatra of Vishaka, is ruled by Jupiter. So not only does she have Jupiter conjunct her moon, but she has it in the very male nakshatra of Vishaka, and it's a very sexual placement too. So that would suggest that's a second part. That's the second very male thing that I'm seeing. And now moving on to the big penis placements. She has her Mars in Jeshta. That's a star in Scorpio. So when she was born, Mars was conjunct the star of Antares, and that's in the heart of Scorpio. So she's a Scorpio Mars, and she does always give me Scorpio vibes. I wonder if she has Anuradha in her Navamsa chart, because even as an old lady, I still get sensual vibes from her. She has a youthfulness, she has a playfulness, she has a sensuality, even as an older lady. I always saw that. So I do wonder if she has Anuradha in her Navamsa. But anyway, looking at her birth chart, her Mars is in Jeshta, and that's a big penis placement. I did a survey on guys with big dicks, and this was like the second highest placement for Mars. And then the big penis placement was having Venus in Purva Falguni. Venus in Purva Falguni, that's a star in Leo. So she's a Leo Venus. And this is actually not just a big penis placement, but it's also, I'm not gonna lie, don't be mad at me for saying this, but this is also really promiscuous placement too. I mean, this is a very independent male chart. And it's so funny because a lot of women, I mean, and you know, she's a Uttara Falguni ascendant, and the nakshatra lord for Uttara Falguni is the sun. So the sun is her chart ruler. And not only that, but not only is the sun her chart ruler, but the sun is in her first house. So that that will give um that will give a lot of pride. That'll give a lot of showmanship. That'll give a lot of someone who is very artistic, very outward, very outgoing. But it also can, honestly, not gonna lie, it can make someone egotistical. It can make someone very prideful. It can make someone very stubborn, stuff like that. Which is funny. I mean, it's just, you know, when I think of Julie Andrews, I think of Sound of Music, right? But you know what? It that makes sense because I'm thinking about the song "How Do We Solve a Problem Like Maria," and it's funny because Maria is, you know, that's Mary, right? And Mary is the the name we associate with the Virgin Mary, right? So it's let me not talk about that right now. Let me just keep going about this pridefulness part. It's interesting because, you know, in the movie, they're talking about how she's not an asset to the Abbey. And that's so interesting because, you know, to be a nun is to be, I don't want to say subservient because it is. It is. It's being subservient. It's being subservient to the Lord, right? So they're being subservient in a very healthy way, in a very good way. It's not like they're being subservient to some dumb guy or whatever, you know. So they're focusing their feminine energy towards better things. And the fact that she's a Hasta son, that I can see why she thought she would be an asset to the convent, you know, to the abbey, you know, because Hasta, the nakshatra of Hasta, which is in Virgo, is actually the nakshatra you see most in nuns and in witches. Just very, 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 very spiritual women in general have Hasta moon or Hasta sun, Hasta ascendant, and she is a Hasta sun. Elena Blavatsky, she was a spiritualist. She was a Hasta moon and or Hasta ascendant. And also, like I said, many witches and many nuns. Saint Rose of Lima was said to have been a Hasta ascendant. I was told that 2,000 years ago, when the sun was actually in Hasta, in September, you know, the way tropical astrology is, that before the festival to celebrate Virgin Mary was in September, which at that time, not now, but at that time was Hasta. So there's a lot of ties to Mother Mary, and virginity, really, and chastity tied to this nakshatra of Hasta. So her son is in Hasta. So that actually makes it really interesting that she was, you know, she played that role so well, where she played a nun. But the thing is that she has her son in her first house. And the ruler of her ascendant is the sun, and it's in her first house. So yeah, she has very feminine placements that make her very, very beautiful. That she has a lot of placements that make her very beautiful, but ultimately, her sun is her chart ruler, and she has the lord of her ascendant is in her lagna, is in her first house. So that makes it like Leo on Leo on Leo on Leo energy, right? Because it's sun, so sun is Leo. So that makes someone very creative, very proud, very headstrong. And that's exactly who Maria was. How do you solve a problem like Maria? You know, she's she's a headache, she's a demon, she's a girl, you know. So that's exactly talking about someone, you know. And I remember in that movie the captain was like, were you like this at the Abbey? You know, and she was like, oh no, sir, I was so much worse. So it does show that. It does show that a very, very, very headstrong woman. And like I said, there's a lot of masculinity in this chart. And it doesn't mean that just because a woman has a lot of masculinity, it doesn't mean that she is going to be like butch and or anything. Actually, I've always seen the opposite. Every time I see a sun woman, I always see a beautiful woman who's just too independent. You know, that's a big part of it, is that it's like, don't make me relinquish my light, for especially for some fucking man. You know, so a lot of sun women are, even when they're married, they either will wear the pants in their marriage, or they will be very, very demanding of their independence, of their autonomy. You know, they're very connected to their free agency. You know, they do what they do. You know, in I hate to go back to Sound of Music, but yeah, the first scene is she's in bliss, you know, in the hills, and she shouldn't even be there. She's supposed to be at the Abbey following the rules. So, you know, she's definitely, it's definitely a rebel energy. But she's got but her moon is in Libra, and she has her Mercury in Libra, and her Jupiter is in Libras, and so it's a lot of artistic, right? So it's Venus. It's a lot of artistic ability, and her, you know, she was a beautiful singer, and Mercury is the planet of the voice, and her Mercury is being ruled by Venus, you know, because it is Libra, and then it's actually in the nakshatra of Swati. It's in the Swati nakshatra. So Swati itself is ruled by Rahu, and Rahu is incredibly creative. Rahu is also very sexual, you know, and Rahu is a very Rahu likes nice things, and Rahu likes just beauty and harmony all around. And Rahu is very artistic. So, you know, her Mercury, it makes sense that she was such a beautiful singer, a great actress, had a nice, lovely voice, because her Mercury was in the very artistic sign of Libra, and the very artistic nakshatra of Swati. And, you know, she's got her Venus in Leo. Like I said, that was one of the big penis placements, was having it not just in Leo, but having her Venus in the star of Purva Falguni. So Madonna's moon is in Purva Falguni. Beyonce's sun is in Purva Falguni. So as you can see, there's just a lot of sexuality, yes, but there's a lot of creativity, you know, there's a lot of sensuality, and Venus being in such a creative nakshatra, and Venus is already so sensual and sexual, and Venus is all about harmony and the arts, right? So there's just another placement of having such a creative streak, and also just having such a love for the arts, really. And you know what? Also, I see these people. Oh, duh, she's a singer. I wonder if she wrote any music in her lifetime, because I see a lot of people with Venus and Purva Falguni writing songs. Of course, they're musical, and it's so funny because the only women I know with Venus and Purva Falguni, not only were they slutty, but also they played guitar. And, you know, not only did they love music and they loved to make music, but they also particularly chose the guitar, which is interesting. Me as a Jeshta, and, you know, she's got Jeshta in her chart too. I wonder if she also played the piano. But I do see a love of making music, and I do see guitar playing in her chart, which is interesting. And not only is all that good, but her Saturn is in Aquarius, and the Saturn Mula Trikona sign for Saturn is Aquarius. So she's got her Saturn in a really good place. When you want to get your jobs done, when you want to get the job done, when you want to stick to a focus, and you have a goal and you need the discipline to make it happen, you need a good, strong Saturn. So recently, I did the charts of like the 100 best YouTubers or most influential YouTubers, and what they all had what I guessed, which was a strong Saturn. You know why? Because Saturn is, Mars has the umph and the passion to begin a project with great, fervor. But does Mars have what it takes to actually take it all the way to the end? They do in a lot of times, but Mars isn't really the one that's about that. Saturn is what's needed to actually carry a project from beginning to the end. So Saturn is usually the one responsible for letting people be very very like methodical and sticking to their plans and being properly driven. It's okay to be driven, but just make sure you're gonna be a doer, And Saturn is a doer, is most definitely a doer. And her Saturn is, like I said, it's a Mula Trikona sign, so she's got a good Saturn too. So not only is there a lot of like artistic qualities, but she's got a good Saturn to help her carry those ambitions all the way to the end. So that's a good thing. The other thing I see, honestly, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, and she's got her Saturn in the 6th house. 6th house of Virgo is the house of hard work. It's the house of doing what it takes to achieve your goal, to achieve your desires. And she's got that Saturn, which is already a good place. She's got it in her 6th house. So, 6th house is what we call kind of an enemy house, because it involves overcoming the hurdles of the earth. This is, so that's why negative planets like Mars and Saturn do well in the 6th house. And in Vedic astrology, it's the benefics like Mercury and Jupiter that don't do well. When you have your Jupiter in your 6th house, you can actually be kind of fat. Which is me. I have my Jupiter in my 6th house. I've always been fat, but when you want a good work ethic, you actually really want a negative planet or a tamasic planet to be in your 6th house, because you need to fight evil with evil, right? So and 6th house is representation of the earth and all of Earth's hurdles and obstacles. So, that's another reason why you need a harsh planet to be in that 6th house. And she has a really good dignity Saturn sitting in her 6th house. So that means that she's a good worker. I mean, she's a hard worker. And Beyonce, she also has the Lord of her 1st house in her 6th house. So I thought that was really interesting. And, Beyonce's a hard worker. People are a hater to Beyonce because she kind of, people treat her like she's God and everything. But you know what? From what Beyonce's chart says, she's earned it. Because Beyonce put in the hours. Beyonce put in the work. So that's the beauty of the 6th house, is when it's working well for you, you have what it takes to make all your dreams come true. So she's got a harsh planet in her 6th house, which is very, very good. And so one last thing before I go is that I actually see a lot of beauty, which is no surprise. Obviously, it's no surprise, but it says that this chart kind of suggests that it's someone who it suggests that it's someone who never really thought that she was that pretty, and kind of worked really hard to be pretty, which is, it's not great to hear because we all love Julie Andrews. We all agree that she's a beautiful girl, a beautiful woman. But this chart kind of suggests that her, like, one of her big goals maybe wasn't to be known for her talent or known for her awesomeness. Maybe she just wanted to be known for her beauty. Purvashada is also a dancer, so I wonder if she wanted to be a ballerina growing up. That was her big goal, or if she wanted to be some type of model growing up. She wanted to be, Purvashada is very beautiful, but it's also in the fourth Navamsha of Scorpio. Okay, so maybe she wanted to be very, 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 very rich. Maybe she wanted to be very financially just surrounded by a lot of wealth and stuff like that, because fourth house is the house of the mother, yes, but fourth house is also the house of security. And fourth house, when you have planets in your fourth house, especially Rahu, which she has, this can actually make you a little bit overly concerned with your looks. It can actually bring a little bit of an OCD. And the fact that she's a Hasta sun, Hasta itself, which is Virgo, Virgo is very nitpicky, and that she's got her house of Virgo, the sixth house, filled. And so she already has a lot of Virgo in her chart. Plus, she has Purvashada, which is a star in Sagittarius. So her north node is in Sagittarius. So yeah, there's just a lot of Venus can be very OCD. So she has Venus in her 12th house. Damn. Venus in the 12th house is really good. Wow. There's a lot of free gifts in this chart. Venus in the 12th house in Leo. That makes your dreams come true. That makes your life, it can give you a life full of splendor. It can make you a very joyous person. It can make you a very sexual person. It can make you it can just give you a lot of really cool things in life. And the fact that she has a good Saturn, damn girl. But yeah, that fourth house in Rahu, it kind of gives me the indication that she maybe has an OCD. Anyway, and she's got her Mars in her third house. That's awesome too, because third house is competition. So like I say, if you're going to have a house like competition, you don't want a benefics there. You actually want a malefic. So she got Mars in her third house. So that means that she is a fighter. She's a good competitor. So there's a lot of strength. I told you, this is a very masculine chart. This is a very strong chart, Yeah. I will say this also. Maybe it's a reach. Maybe I'm reaching here. But, she's most known for movies about taking care of children, right? Well, her Mars is in the third house, okay? So third house is not exactly children, but it is siblings, right? And Mars is what you spend a lot of your time doing. So, and her Mars is in Jeshta. So Jeshta is it's the elder. So she could be the eldest of her siblings. But also Jeshta, especially for a woman or anyone who expresses Jeshta in a feminine way, they actually this is also known as the protector of children. So it's interesting that she has her Mars in the third house. Third house is, because it's Mercury, it's Gemini. Third house means multiple. Right. And so she is known for doing multiple movies about being a protector of children. She's a nanny in her most infamous roles, so or she's a mother or she's a stepmother or something like that. So that actually is pretty interesting that she's got her Mars in the energy of being the protector of children. And it's sitting in her third house of multiple, and she has done multiple movies of being a protector of children. So I think that's pretty interesting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And she has her Ketu in her 10th house. That's interesting too. So her Ketu is in her 10th house. On one hand, I wonder if she has like something funny about her body or something funny about her. I wonder if there's something really strange about her, which again makes me think of that song, How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria? Because that with that character, it's like there's something weird about her. There's something very strange about her. Everyone has all these very different ideas about her. She's a darling, she's an angel, she's a demon, so everyone's having all these different impressions of her, which is very Ketu, because Ketu doesn't stick to anything. Ketu is subparticles, so it's no surprise that people see a lot of different things. And it's also interesting that her Ketu's in Gemini. So Gemini is, like I said, is multiple. Gemini is multiple things. So people see a lot of different things when they think of her. And it's in Punarvasu. Punarvasu is Punarvasu is the nakshatra of, again, being a provider, being loving, being merciful, being taking care of people. So she's got that in her 10th house of public display. So when people see her, they will tend to see that. Yeah. Okay. And technically she's a moon native as well, because she has her moon in her 2nd house. So she has, even though she's very dominant, she has a lot of sun in her chart. She still has that feminine beauty, because ruler of the 4th house is the moon, and she has her Rahu in the 4th house. And her sun is in the nakshatra of Hasta, which is ruled by the moon, and she has her moon in her 2nd house. So, she does have a lot of moon in her chart, but Hasta, the deity that rules Hasta, is Savitar, the sun god. So even her moon placements have a bit of extra independence, more than like Rohini or Shravana. Anyway, I'm at 26 minutes. I think that's enough for now. Okay, bye.